Settle down, kids. It's time for Pappy Pauper to read you another story deck. If you enjoy family-friendly Pauper decks for less than 10 tickets on MtGO, be sure to subscribe and like this video. Today, we're going to focus on a blue and black deck that brings into play many zombies. We can go tall with a zombie Amass deck, building a zombie army, or wide with zombie tokens or homunculi. Let's look at how we do this. Our primary goal is to build a singularly large zombie army token using the Amass triggers that we have available to us, recycling our graveyard and sacrifice triggers available to us. We also can go wide with zombie tokens and homunculi creatures as well. And now, our story. Drusilla the Tame waltzed into an unguarded city crypt at night. Vaults of the dead lay open to her black magics and her pet, Oglor. She would orchestrate an undying army of loyal chaff below. In addition to Eternals, Drusilla had command of science. She sung spells as she danced, while the homunculus held her instruments. Soon, her chants became lost amid the moans of the unhallowed servants. And whispers of more. Drusilla spun with each new arisen and lined them in formation. Shouting became hard to distinguish necromancy from her ill pleasures. The siege on Ravnica would be ugly, but she brought some dark beauty. Thank you for once again indulging my haiku storytelling as we now assume the role of necromancers in this equally split black and blue necromancy deck. We have a very low converted mana cost split among black and blue. Our sideboard is well crafted against the popular metagame. Let's look at how we prepare for our opponents. Our most cumbersome sideboard option is against auras, whether they be heroic or boggles. We take out 2 Callous Dismissal, 3 Bone Splinters, and 1 Displace to focus heavily on 3 Annuls and 3 Innocent Blood, now appearing on screen. We want to stop our opponents from building heavy pressure early on, so we sacrifice a bit of our endgame at sorcery speed. We prepare for Elves and other token strategies by removing a singular focus of Bone Splinters, for 2 suffocating fumes. Against a burn matchup or red deck wins, we remove 3 Callous Dismissal and insert 3 Dispels. This also helps us against blue fairy decks that may want to use counterspells against us. Callous Dismissal once again leaves when we need to focus on Graveyard Hate as our most flexible sideboard card, and we insert 2 Relic of Progenitus. When combat winds are not an option for us, we remove 2 Nameless Inversion and insert 2 Gruesome Fate as a way to use our many creatures to remove our opponent's life total. And that's our sideboard. Let's look at some games. We mulligan a no land hand and begin with possibly a good, well, now confirmed, good hand with opportunities for Amass. Our opponent begins somewhat slower, and we build a good strong board presence. They start by drawing some card advantage, and we start applying more pressure with more Amass. I don't want to trade my Amass token yet. I want to see if it can get larger. All of our creatures, aside from a smaller zombie army, will be immune to the damage the witches would do to us. They have 2 toughness, even our sanitarium skeleton. It's interesting that that was a target to go against us, but we can see how large the zombie token can get. It creates quite a problem for our opponent. We continue to apply pressure, having many options that even a sacrificial outlet can provide. Ghoulcaller's Chant allows us to get our Eternals back, which are zombies, and we swing in for good damage and win the game. In our second game, we start off with a good hand, having many options to get Amass going often and early with removal and Stitcher's Apprentice. If you haven't been able to tell, we have a potential to gain armies going quite often and early in a later game using Stitcher's Apprentice and Sanitarium Skeleton, which can recur itself from the graveyard. Earlier, one of the slides in the deck discussion discussed a question mark about Cast Down as a removal spell. I'm not certain that it would be useful in this deck over Bone Splinters, because I like the option of being able to have a creature of ours go to the graveyard to bring it back with a removal spell like Bone Splinters and recur it from the graveyard, especially knowing that I can get 2 creatures back. Here we continue to swing in with advantage, knowing that if they choose to block, that creature would be destroyed. We're not going to block, we want to keep it. Keep our Aven Eternal. A fun fact, that changeling creature also counts as a zombie, making Ghoulcaller's Chant more applicable, being able to get removal back from our graveyard, because it's a shapeshifter. Here we have more Amass going, and we get a homunculi. I'm curious about having the ability to use Herald of the Dreadhorde, affectionately referred to as Herald, and the Stitcher's Apprentice, but we have more value and win the game before I'm able to execute that. In our third and final game, I bring you a mirror match with one of my buddies. That way, no matter who wins, you get to see more of the deck do its pieces. Let me know what you think of that in the comments section below. We both start off, as would expect, in a mirror match with similar copies of similar effects. I'm not sure what value the attack there would have done, but it's good initiative, I should say, at least. And again, the mirror match holds true to its form, and I seem to accelerate more on lands here, and would have a favorable matchup if he chose to block. Now in that situation, should he had a Wakedancer, I could see where that exchange would have been more favorable. In playtesting this deck, I found many people would attack and destroy Stitcher's Apprentice over other cards that would potentially pose a bigger threat, like Aven Eternal. It seems like such an outlier that even a creature with evasion would stick around, while such a unusual card like Stitcher's Apprentice brought in a lot of hate against it. But I believe perhaps rightfully so. It just seems surprising to me in my playtesting experiences that Stitcher's Apprentice often became a lightning rod for removal. And here's an opportunity to see how well the combination could go. And here also one can see how wide we can get with our creature spells. Noting that I have one Wakedancer in the midst to be able to trigger Morbid, gives us quite a wide army for our deck. And one of the hopes to showcase this deck in having a mirror match, one can see how large we can get growing tall or wide, noting that his Amass army is getting large as well. Again, I'd appreciate your feedback in seeing mirror matches in the future. And here we just have too many creatures going in for the attack for him to block. We seem to have more mana, and so win the third and final game. This is Pappy Pauper, encouraging you to be uncommonly magical. Until next time, please subscribe for more family-friendly Pauper videos for less than 10 tickets, and be notified of future videos as well. Thanks again.